He's like, "You can mention names.
I don't care. I don't.
My name is Buck, and I don't." Here we go. It's gonna be that kind of episode. We're live now, by the way.
I know. I just saw it. I gotta pause it over here.
And welcome folks that are coming into the room for our for our critique session. This is gonna be a good one because once again, Troy and I are in a punchy mood kind of thing. Which I'm thinking this is a theme, right? Because
I'm wearing my. Oh wait, it's on this side. I'm wearing my Tesla beanie. So...
Wait, there you go. Wait, hold it up. Hold it up. Oh, point to it. Wait for it. You got to point to it.
Slow.
All right, I got it. I had to do the screenshot, so for evidence. Oh man, this is gonna be good. So, this is folks that are just tuning in. This is our photo critique. This week's critique topic was books. Thank you, Troy, for coming up with that. Got lots of good books submissions this time around, and this is one of our last critiques before the end of the year. We got like one more after this.
One more. Oh no, not even one more.
Yeah, because what are we now? We're the night as we record this. It is the 19th. Yeah, we got one more. So we have because we have the group photo critique on the 26th.
Yeah.
And then we're into 23. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. Our last critique of 2022. We made it through another year. What is this? Year 20? Something like that?
Man.
See what you started? You see what you started? This was your suggestion, by the way, that we start this way back at the beginning. This is your suggestion. Just going on record. So be careful what you ask for.
I know.
No, but this is good. I enjoy these. Obviously there'll be lots of changes to these going forward as certain things that we're planning roll out. But yeah, it's this and our member mixer are highlights of my week. Just kind of hanging out and shooting the crap, and it's no agenda. I mean, we have an agenda, obviously. Here it's the critique, but it's not business or anything like that. It's just hanging out with friends, chilling and talking about stuff.
Right.
Speaking of that, as you know, I took your advice and I got that 14 to 30 lens against my better judgments, because my better judgment was get the 14 to 24 2.8. Right. Then I had a little Troy Miller on my shoulder saying, "No, dude, get the 14 to 30 f4. It'll be fine." And you're in a Scottish accent. It'll be fine. So I got the 14 to 30. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I just got it a couple days ago and have been doing holiday stuff, gifts and Christmas tree and lights, all that stuff for the weekend. So I can only stare at it from afar. But tonight I'm taking it out. I'm taking that baby out. I'm gonna put a round or two through it.
This will be your next lens right here.
What is that? Is that the 7200?
No, it's the 105 macro.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the 7200 is got to be next. And by the way, I'm losing your video. Somebody in the house is streaming Netflix.
I'm pausing. I'm going back and making sure everything's paused. I don't understand.
It's all good. It's all good. We got a screen share anywhere. So let's dive into this. Who's in the chat? We've got a bunch of usual suspects in there. Paolo's in there. Craig, James Glennie. Good. Lots of good people. So if you guys, as you guys show up in here, and even if you're watching this on the replay, please remember to like and subscribe to the TWiP channel so that we can feed the algorithm monster and get more eyeballs on this. But
yes.
And Rick Kilboy. Hey, Rick. Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Nice.
All right. And your video's back? Good. So we have a show now. Let's do it.
Hey, when you pause Dropbox, sync, back blaze, your video comes back.
You need more bandwidth. Don't you have gigabit up and down? You're saturating gigabit?
That's no.
Oh, Kira has that. Oh, not you.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got like drip Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Well, you got to work on that. Ask Santa for a better internet provider.
Yeah, no kidding. That's no joke.
All right, so here we go. Before we dive in, what's new with? I always forget to ask you. What's new with you? Anything insane happening down there in Southern California?
No, nothing insane, but I was woken up this morning by a helicopter, and I thought, oh, somebody in the neighborhood's been bad. So I'm going to grab my camera and go photograph, the police helicopter. Turns out the school at the end of my street was changing all of their air conditioners on the roof. So I got to photograph a helicopter moving air conditioners.
Oh,
That's kind
that's
of cool.
cool. That's
Yeah,
cool. Hey, there you go. I thought you were going to
it
say
was neat.
the school was doing a Santa thing and Santa showed up on a helicopter or something. That would have been cool.
That would have been better.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's it. Yeah, nothing,
That's it.
nothing too exciting. No,
Nothing exciting.
it's casual. It's the slow time of the year for me. End of the wedding season. I don't have another wedding until I think like March or February. A family, and then March for weddings. So this is my reorganization time. It's when I'm playing my guitar more. I'm playing video games more, organizing all my files, going back and editing old stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's time to do that.
It's a
So
yeah, it's landing gear down, kind of chill.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
building stuff in the garage. Yep.
Yeah. Did you give any thought to that suggestion I gave you? Like crossing the streams, building pottery, and then photographing it, and then writing a song about it, or something like that. You gotta make that happen.
No,
You gotta
I'm
make that
not that
happen.
good at the guitar.
I'm
Oh
not that
yeah,
good. Just like do like one thing, like a blues riff.
yeah, yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
You'll be good. Make it happen. That's your goal for 23. I gotta see this happen.
I will try.
Um, before we record, I just finished recording a really good interview with Raphael Pons, who
Hmm.
is the co-founder and CEO of Photo Pills, that app that we talk about a lot on the show
Yep.
for photo planning and stuff. So we had a really great conversation about planning
Cool.
and the importance of it. He even did a demo. We did a whole a live demo of how to use the app, and it was pretty
Yeah.
good. I'm really happy that he was available to do that, and happy that technology worked out to let us do that. Usually, when I'm doing international, because he's in Spain, so sometimes
Yeah.
those connections just don't allow it. Sometimes it's between me and Riverside, but you know, but
Yeah.
sometimes the connections they don't cooperate. But this time everything was flawless. Worked great. So it's been a good tech day.
That's
So
awesome. Good
all right,
deal.
let's dive into this week's photo critique. As we said, the
Yeah.
topic was and is books. And look at you, the first one in there. 13 days ago, you put in this highly used book. So tell us the story of the show.
I was my buddy. Where there was this abandoned farm not too far from his house, and of course, it's full of stuff. So we're like, we're gonna go photograph, and we walk in the barn, and this is laying just exactly like this on this old workbench. It used to be an old shop, and that's an old shop manual. So now I wish I had looked at it to see what it was, but I thought I'm just gonna photograph it and leave it and move on. So that's how we found it. And those posts on the left, those studs, that was actually where they mounted their vise. I'm assuming because it's that same pattern. But yeah, that was it.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I have this my dad gave me or left me this Bible that is, very very old and falling to pieces. So, and it looks not quite this bad, but it looks, it's not ready to be put into service anytime soon. So, I'm looking at ways to preserve it, maybe mount it in a sort of a plastic box or something that can be mounted on the
Yeah,
wall or so this reminds me of that book and that project that I have to at some point tackle. What cool show.
yeah, yeah. Even in today's massive technology explosion that we have, I think books still hold a precious affinity. There's something about that tactical experience of holding a book, even if you're not an avid book reader or something like that. I mean, just I think books are just amazing. So
Yeah. Yeah, the problem with books for me is as I get older, like my eyes get tired as I'm like sort of. Are you distracted? Look at him. My eyes get tired as I'm reading physical books, which is why I read a lot of audiobooks, even if you can use that term, reading audiobooks.
right.
But yeah, this is good. I like the shot. Thanks for being the first one to break the seal. Throw this in there.
Well, I recommended the books because I knew I had this one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. Well, I hope you have one for 23 for the first one of 23. Next shout up is Paolo. Paolo says, "Are you asking me a nature morte? No way."
Yeah, I looked that up by the way. Nature Morte is a gallery, an art gallery. So,
Oh, good.
um, I want to say I really like this image a lot. I think that the mood, the tone that you've put into this image, whether you've color graded it very much or not, I think that the cool tone is really wonderful. The intentional balance with the windows and everything else is super awesome, and you know that sort of calm body language that we have there, and then you've got sort of the cross hatching or the the window panes kind of add a little bit more stress. So I really like that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, excellent composition all around. I was going to comment on that color grading as well because the overall grade is cool, and then the things that need to be warm are warm. Our subject, the light, and the light on the ground are warm, which kind of gives us this sort of feeling of like a cat finding a sunspot, right, and kind of hanging out in there, keeping warm. So it has that warmth to it, and then of course the book in there and the intent look at the book. So yeah, it all sort of works together. Like wonderful simplicity. This is an excellent use of composition, rule of thirds, repeating patterns, all that. So very nice. I like it.
Right, right. Yeah, there's so many good elements in here to really lean into. I don't really have anything that I would say that I would correct other than maybe some of those little white specular highlights, or whatever it is, on the below the window on the lower left. Just on that tapered ridge, there's some little white specks and things I might clean up just to be picky.
Mhm.
But other than that, no, this is clean. This is wonderful. I hope you took more than one image of this.
Yeah, yeah. Before she looked at him and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Get out of here! Leave me alone. I'm trying to read a book." Yeah, this is cool. Very good, Paolo. Thank you for sharing this. All right. Coming up next, let's just look at more replies in here. Good. All right. Next up is Raphael Swift. He says, "A book in the hand." Okay. Oh, I
Is
see what
that
you're
how
saying.
that's
Okay. Yeah. So our chopped wood here is the book in the hand right here. Is that
right?
what is that on that wood there, Raphael? It looks like blood. What's happening?
No,
What happened here? Is this a crime
that's
scene?
so funny.
What
It's
do you think?
wet. Yeah, it's wet. Come
Yeah, it's
on.
just wet. I know. That's wrong. My brain is demented. What do you think of the shot?
I love the symbolism that's going on in here, and the shallow depth of field, and sort of the like the storytelling of the fact that we've got that piece of wood sitting there, and it feels very much like a book, right? Like you recognize it as a book. I don't think though that we need a majority of the right half of the frame and the bottom half of the frame, because there's just a lot going on there that isn't part of that story if we're leaning into the book theme.
Hmm.
If we're just looking at a cool pile of wood, then yes. But I think that our subject is sort of that book shaped hunk of wood there, and I think that cropping the bottom and the right would be way better.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, compositionally, the I'm drawn to the book. I have to find it. It's almost like a Where's Waldo, but I know this is a book theme, so my brain was looking for things to remind me of books. And then, of course, I see that and I see, oh, obviously that's the book. I think what this could have, I think more strength could have come out of this if we had this was cropped so that this book's type structure or wood was down here. So down in the lower right or at the lower third, the lower right third intersection. And if this was up top, now of course I'm rearranging gigantic heavy wood blocks, with words, but compositionally, if this was kind of lower left, or I'm sorry, lower right, with a fall off depth of field, so that my eyes are sort of looking at this and then falling into the image. This
Hmm.
this lower right foreground element is sharp and it's got the snow on it and it's got another piece of wood protruding out of it. So it's drawing my attention away from this really interesting structure up here, almost this altar looking thing up here. So to me, these two things are competing with each other. So if this was gone and the book structure, this whole thing was in place of that, and the rest just sort of fell off, that would have, yeah, I would have understood the story a little bit more. Right now, my attention is a little bit divided between the two sort of structures or leading
Right.
elements in the scene.
Right. And this is a really good, lesson for all of us to learn. I mean, like when you're standing in this spot and you look at this image and you ask yourself like, "Oh, I really like that piece of wood leaning in there." Make an effort to get a composition that uh, highlights that subject better, right? Like compositionally, you want to move around. So, like if you were to move to the left, or if you were to come in closer and shoot down, or isolate the subject you're looking for and be aware of all the distractions around you. Um,
Hmm.
that may not have been why Raphael shot this photo, though. He may have just seen this and then later recognized that as a book, and that's totally fine too. But it's just this idea that think about what your subject is and get them to look really good in camera.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and less is more, right? I think that's a
Yeah,
hard part for a lot of photography photographers, is this being here on scene and it marinating in the grandeur of it all, to push it all away and focus down or niche down on
right.
one isolated subject, which usually makes a stronger subject, unless the grandeur is the subject. But if it's one thing like this, it's, we see this a lot in a lot of landscape photos, or not landscape, but nature photos, where the subject is the animals, but we're showing too much of the surroundings of the animal and not enough of the animal. Like I think you
Right.
say, like, if you were painting this, would you, and this sticks in my head, if you were painting this with actual paint and a canvas, would you spend the time painting this structure down here? Right? Would that be
Mhm.
worth your time? Or if every pixel
Right.
cost you an amount of money, and you had to pay by the
Right.
pixel for these images, would you spend the money on this?
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah, it's all about being intentional, and even for somebody like me who's been shooting for such a long time, I go out into an environment and I see something and I'm like, "Oh, this is really beautiful seascape or landscape." It could be a rainy day, it could be a rainbow, it could be whatever. But you always have to separate yourself from that and say, "Okay, will this translate to a photograph? And if
yeah,
it will translate to a photograph, how do I do it in the best way that the technology can manage what I'm seeing?" Because there is no way that that photograph is going to translate the smells, the temperature, whether you had a glass of wine or not, right? Whether you're
hmm,
hungry, it doesn't translate the same things that we have when we're having those personal experiences. So we have to detach ourselves from that and distill the image down in camera the best we can.
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah, or how long and how much effort you spent to get to the spot to take the photo. Right. So
Yeah.
sometimes you want to show that. Look at where I had to walk in order to get here.
I have
Yeah.
lots of wedding images that I spent a lot of work at to make them mediocre. And it was just like, well, that's what it was, right? We walked over here, the lighting wasn't perfect, and you just like, okay, I'm gonna make it work. But
Yeah.
it wasn't what I had in my mind's eye when I got there.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Very cool. All right. Thank you, Raphael.
Good job. I love it.
Good job. Next up is Craig Stamfley, modern books. Yeah, now you're talking my story. Yeah, that's my library, one of them.
I think this is Craig being a little bit of a smartass.
Yeah,
No,
a
no,
little
no.
bit, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Um, I love what you've done here, Craig, and I think that it's a very clever take on the theme, and I like clever, and I like when things aren't obviously done, like in line. And this is our today. Like this is I used to be an avid book reader. Like I have volumes and volumes of books, but I do audiobooks now, you
Yeah,
know?
same here.
And so yeah, this is the way it is. And I love it. I love audiobooks. So I love the shot.
Yeah, yeah. What would you change about this shot, like compositionally? Anything?
I would put a better book in there that's in focus. I mean, The Martian's a decent book, but there's better books.
Here
No, I'm
you
kidding.
go. Oh yeah, you're
Um,
you're revealing your taste.
um, no, I mean, if I was to get really nitpicky, I would probably clean up the lower right hand corner to take out that 0025. I like the Ready Player One just barely kind of popping in there. So sort of like as a book fan, might figure out what that is, but just the very low right hand corner, I just might get rid of that to clean that up a little bit. But honestly, I think this is a fantastically well done commercial level shoot, very storytelling. I love the shallow depth of field. The focus is right where it needs to be, on that lower thirds, and then kind of leads us into the background. Um, no, I think it's very, very well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think I would have if if your lens, the lens selection that you use to shoot this with, if it allows, get a little bit closer. Like for example, I don't need to be able to read all these books in here. I think I would have maybe focused on the Martian or A Small Town in Germany, and had that be the subject, and had just like a sliver of depth of field that showed that particular book up closer, like even like much bigger in the frame, so all the other ones are kind of falling away. So then the story, instead of the story becoming about books, the story is about that particular book in the context
Yeah.
of all these other digital books. But that's just one way to interpret it.
Yeah, and it's a really cool option because in this sense, I can look at this and say, "Oh, he listens to them on his phone." Right?
Hmm.
Which is kind of cool versus where push in and get and hide the device option, right? Hide whatever the device is, like you're suggesting, maybe, and
Hmm.
move in and just really talk about or photograph the book itself. And
Yeah.
then seeing the progress bar and the hours kind of tells us like, you know, where you are in your book and what book you're reading. And so yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It sort of telegraphs Craig's inability to finish anything, right? So it's just all these unfinished books. What's going on with that, Craig? I'm just saying, finish a book.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one
Yeah.
in there that's finished. I see one that's finished.
There's a
Um,
yeah, there's a couple.
yeah. No, but yeah, I think it's two different stories, right? So one story is just like you're saying, is about the fact that, oh, this is a list of my books and they're all digital and I like audiobooks, etc. The way that I'm
Right.
suggesting, which is just a different take on it, is to look at it as the fact that these books are digital is a foregone conclusion. It doesn't matter, right? That these are digital books. The story becomes, hey, I'm reading The Martian, right? And The Martian is right here, and I got 6 hours and 20 minutes left on The Martian. Boom. Who cares if it's digital, right? So taking it from
Right.
that spec, like, okay, yeah, okay, it's 2023 now, practically. We all read digital books or audible books, so whatever. But I'm reading The Martian, and that's what this
Right.
photo's about. So
Exactly. Exactly.
exactly. And up next is, thank you, Mr. Stanley, appreciate that. Up next is Nora Zanotness. Nora says, Christmas Story in Greenlandic.
Oh wow, interesting.
That. All
Oh,
right.
interesting. I love that.
Uh-huh.
Geez. Wow, this is really cool. Um, I think that I think where I'm struggling is like the book just in the frame. Like I wish that I could see a hand holding it, or maybe if it was on, like a pedestal or a book reading easel or something like that, so it had a
Mm,
purpose for in there. I get what you're doing. Like I understand the story. Um, and then in that, I wish there was more depth of field, or shallow depth of field, right? Some more depth in the frame. So the fact that it's intentionally sharp all the way through, to me, just makes the image feel a little bit more flat. I mean, it looks to me like this is probably a church, and so even if it was slightly out of focus, that would be okay.
mm-hmm.
um, which I think would be easy to do in this case, right? You could mask the book and you could drop the background out just ever so slightly, just to give it a little bit more depth. But I love the premise. I think it's super cool. But I would just love to see a hand holding the book, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Everything you said, I want to see hands in there to give it context. Maybe children's hands, even, kind of holding the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like as I look at this from a story standpoint, yeah, absolutely. I want shallower depth of field. I don't need to see all the way back to the the candelabra in the background and the crosses on the wall and all that. I can infer those even if they were a little bit fuzzy, which would draw me into the books more.
Right.
The it feels like it's a little bit tilted to the left, so and all these horizontal lines in there are just snitching, right? So it needs to be
Yeah.
rotated to the right a little bit to give us, or however, it needs to be distorted to give us the appearance that those pews are parallel or horizontal.
Right.
But yeah, that so the hands on the book so that it's not sort of this disembodied book floating there. I don't want to see little like preferably children's hands because it's a children's book, but even adults' hands in there. But then when I think of the hands being on there, I'm like, okay, so who is this person reading to? There's nobody in there, right? So here's that
Right.
beat of it, and I think that would have been easier sold if it were blurred out in the background a little bit.
Sure.
So there wasn't so much detail in there. It'd be less of a where are all the people. It'd be more about the book itself.
Right.
Yeah, but I love the
Right.
symmetry. I love the symmetry of this shot. I mean, all the architecture comes through. It's obvious what, by the positioning of Nora and the composition, that what she was doing here. Making sure everything was sort of even on all sides and straight down the fairway to that candelabra from the spine of the book all the way back to that middle candle is in alignment. I just think if we rotated
Right.
a little bit to the right, that would have kind of sold that symmetry a little bit more.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, standing in that situation and not knowing how much time you have and all that kind of stuff, and she obviously didn't run out and do this just for us.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're standing there and you're thinking about these things, hopefully some of these thoughts go through your mind. For me, if I had thought like, "Ooh, I want to show this book off in this church," I might open it up and lay it, on one of the pews and shoot wide angles, shoot through the slats of the benches, create some depth that way. Maybe it was like, it was in this space and somebody laid it down and walked away. Maybe you shoot the whole church and then this thing is just laying off to the side and it becomes a secondary hook, maybe like a little surprise, like an Easter egg in the frame.
Hmm.
So think about some of those kind of things, but always shoot a variety. But I still love the shot. I think it's very clever and it's fun to see for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I love the colors in here too. The greens and the browns, and it's
Oh,
very
I know.
warm. Very warm. Like it. Even the greens are reflecting on the roof there from the light. Very cool. Thank you, Nora. Very much appreciated. And up next is James Glennie. James says, holiday baking season has arrived for me, so all the fancy cookbooks come out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And James is responsible for the most amazing bread cookbook recommendation. So kudos
Mm.
to James for that. He recommended that to me, I think last year. I shared it in the community. So he's got some good suggestions there. Um, when it comes to this shot, I really love what you're doing here, James. I think that it's an awesome perspective. It's very clever. I really like that. A couple things that I'm kind of struggling with was the red in the upper right hand corner. I wish that wasn't red. I feel like it's distracting me and pulling me out of the frame. Red is our eyes are sensitive to red, so we tend to get drawn to those. And I think that like the measuring cup and the chocolate chips could be more of a piece of those rather than including them in the frame. So maybe crop part of that top frame down. You could almost crop out the red, but then you would lose the photograph of I think what you're actually making. So make the ingredients and the tools more of like a suggestion to what they might be.
Mhm.
Um, unless you want to open this frame up, right? Unless you want to pull back and include more book. Because right now it feels like it's like half and half.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Punching in is where I was going to go with this because the red, yeah, it pulls us out of the frame and it makes us think, what is that? Right? So we get even if it's for a split second, you're like, what is that red stuff? What is that red over there? It's a mixer. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but you get caught in that little eddy in the corner which you could very easily not be in if you just crop back a little bit. Like the chocolate chips that we're looking at, we don't really need to see the whole bowl of chocolate chips in order to for our brain to extrapolate that this is a little glass bowl full of chocolate chips. We only need a small
Right.
part of it. Same with the measuring cup. So with and the facing page there, unless we're gonna, yeah, I assume that that is showing what the finished product looked like, but it's out of focus and it's cropped off, so you're telling me that it's not important. So if we push in, of course we know that humans like to read things in frames whenever they see it. If there's not a face present, you're gonna read whatever text is in the frame. So we go straight to that caramel creams text and then we start reading down and we fall out of focus there. But if we punch in tighter on that, so it's all about that first, and I'm holding up like you guys can see me. It's all about this first kind of area here. This is all out of focus, so this doesn't really help us, right? So falling out of focus, I feel like is important, and you get there to about right here when things start becoming completely illegible. So if you do a crop kind of like this around there, where we have a part of the cup, a part of
Hmm.
the glass container with the chocolate chips in there, and the book just around to the area where things start falling and becoming completely illegible, that becomes more about I'm about to make some chocolate creams, right? And I'm using this
Right.
cup, I'm using these, and these are my instructions. All of these other extraneous things out here, and even showing the full cup here, I think is unnecessary. Again, if you're paying for pixels here or you are painting this, would you have gone through the trouble to meticulously paint in the shadow and the highlight and all that on this red over here to make sure that you got the dimensionality of this correct, or would you have just painted what you need to paint?
Right. Right. No, yeah. No, well said. No, I totally agree. Now, there are some artifacts that I'm seeing in this image. They're little horizontal striations throughout the entire image. And they're just kind of like random. They're all over. There's one right next where it says heavy cream to the left. There's one below batch size. There's one. I mean, they're all over on the right hand side. I would look at that, James, because to me that looks like either a bad file being processed, or it could even be a bad sensor. I hope it's not a bad sensor, but that definitely looks like something going on there. You can see
Mm-hmm.
them along the spine of the book, where right between the black and the white divide, there's a bunch
Yeah, here,
that run
here,
horizontal.
here,
Yeah,
here, here. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, they're up here. Huh.
I've seen that when a sensor goes funky, or if a file is corrupted when it's saved or something.
Hmm.
So at first I thought it was like something on my screen. I'm like moving the window around. I'm like, nope, they're moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could really
So it
screw
kind
you
of
up in
looks
doing
like
astrophotography, right? Because or star trails or something.
I've
Like,
discovered a new star.
was that a meteor shower? Like, what is happening here? No, yeah, yeah. You should definitely check that out and see what's what with that.
Oh,
All right.
interesting. He says it's happening on export. I've never seen those on anything I've ever exported, so I wonder what's going on. But good to know. Yeah, you shouldn't be getting those. That's bizarre.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Well, something to look for.
Good, good. At least he knows about them. That's what's good.
Yep. All right, James Glennie. Thank you for that. I hope you cooked those and they were good.
Yeah, I have to share some photos of what they look like after they're made, not
Yeah,
after
yeah.
they're at.
Yeah, not after they're it. Yeah, after they're made. Phil Lewenthal's up next. He says retired except for this. That's his catch line. Well, he's got a couple shots in here. This is the final shot, and he's got a shot of the setup, which I'll show as well. So let's talk about the final shot first. What do you think? This is
Yeah,
out of Phil's wheelhouse, right? For the most part.
well, except it's black and white, so which is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, he's leaning into the yeah. There should have been a book in here like on sea palms or something. That would have been
There
very
you
clever.
go. There you go.
Yeah, that would have leaned into his thing. Um, I really do like the concept of what's happening here, and I like how we have a bunch of different books in the background. The group F64, the Ansel Adams group. that he formed, and it's super cool. And then of course the 1,001 ways to improve your photography, which is your photograph, which is so suitable for what we're doing here. Um, I think for me, what I would have liked to have seen is one, the lighting on the book to come in from a different angle. Coming in from the lower left, I feel kind of draws us out of the frame, and I think that it would have been better to be more like a back edge lit kind of thing. So like maybe back left, back right, and then because there's no depth of field in this, there's no foreground, middle ground, background. I would have loved to have seen these books pushed back and away and been out of focus. You could have done it in camera, or you could do it in post by doing a linear gradient, not a linear gradient, but like a linear focus
Mm-hmm.
filter. So they kind of fall off more, right? And that kind of creates some depth, and even a little bit in the foreground, a little bit of a softer focus.
Yeah. Yeah. This shot, when I look at it, it reminds me of what it might look like inside the mind of an obsessed photographer's head, right? This is what we're thinking about. How do I get better? This and Group F64, and okay, and I can understand color and Roy G. Biv, and all of these different things is always kind of swirling in our heads, especially when you're out shooting. And this is what this says to me. And a lot of times we always say, like we just said on the previous image, that when there are words in the frame, you want to read them. And in this case, Phil is using those words and that tendency of people needing to read the words in the frame as a compositional element. So yeah, he wants you to read these words, and they're not a distraction. They're the whole point. And Phil says in the chat, let me bring up what he said in the chat. He says the title of this was supposed to be Too Much Good Stuff, right? And that's it, right? It's just right now, these days, there's an embarrassment of riches in terms of all the learnings that we can get, right? I've
Oh
been making
yeah.
this running list. Let me just inside baseball you guys for a second and pull up my notes here. I've been making this running list of shots that I want to try, or genres that I want to try in 2023. And here goes: time lapse, long exposure, macro, portrait, fashion, gel, landscape, painting with light, astro, boudoir, creative selfie shots, drone, aerials, creative interviewing, iPhone photography, levitation, street photography, and it goes on. It goes on and on and on, right? So there's, and that's just like a tiny sliver of photography, of the different things that we can do,
Yep.
right? And these are just like ideas for self-contained experiments and things to play around with over time. But I go back and I look at this shot from Phil, this Too Much Good Stuff shot, and that's it, right? I mean, there's so much. There's so much stuff, so many techniques, so much gear, so much software, so many places to post your images, so much feedback, so many YouTube videos. It's just an embarrassment of riches. Where back in my day, when I was shooting film with a Nikon F3, it was the library, right? That's all we had.
Right.
It was the library. So, no, I love this. This is cool.
I think to help you achieve your list, we should make those critique topics, and you have to participate. So
Okay.
we'll just
All
start
right.
at your top of your list and work our way through. So look at you. Well, I don't really want to do them.
Oh, I like to write about it and talk about it, but doing it. No, absolutely. That was the whole point of this, is to, kind of put a box around. My brain works better when a defined intent. Like that's why that Photo Pills interview was so interesting to me, because it's all about defined intent, planning, figuring out what you want to do first, executing on it, being delighted by what you got, and if you don't get it, learning by what went wrong and why didn't you get it, then rinse and repeat and go out. So that's what this whole
Right.
list is about. It's about that experimentation and actually going out and using all this amazing gear that I am accumulating, as you and the community like to continually draw circles around. That I have gear and I haven't put. I told you guys at the last mixer why I haven't posted anything. I can't say it here, but I told you what the topics of the stuff that I'm shooting are, which is, I was joking, by the way. But yeah, this is a cool shot. So this has a thick black border on it. I like
Yep.
in this context. I think that's perfect for this. Do you
Yeah.
think that that works for this? Right? Without this
Yep.
border, it would have been kind of a different picture, almost a snapshot. With the border on there, it feels more work of artish.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, my thoughts on borders. I like it.
Everything needs a border. Everything needs a border. Yeah, and preferably a sloppy border. Right? Am I getting that right?
Well, no, not always, but that is my thing. So
I don't know. The border master is Paolo Bossetti. You know, I mean, his borders are. I
he
like
has
that.
he has great borders. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
very cool. All right, moving right along. Thank you, Phil. Oh, here's the shot. Here's the
Yeah, I already
setup
made
for
it.
that
Yeah.
shot.
That's nice.
hmm
Very clever.
Why is your memory card door open, Phil? I'm wondering. I love that. We need to do like a book exchange in the community. That
I'm
is
not giving any of my books away.
no, not even your old ones.
No, I like
Those are
them
the best
all.
ones. Yeah.
No, they're all my children. They do not go away.
Ugh. Oh, I see. That's where you and I differ because I had so many books, like just a ton, many photography books, but even other books, and they were just taking up so much space and just I liquidated them all. They all went to Amazon for the
Terrible.
most part. I kept a ton. I still have a ton of books, like a wall of books, but I had three walls of books, and they are now gone on to better homes.
No,
So,
no.
all
My goal is
right.
to have a library like we'll see in the next photo.
Oh, nice segue. And the next photo, Eric Pronsky says, looking up in the library at Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. Not sure it fit the topic for this week. Please excuse it. No, I think this very neatly fits the topic for this week. Look at
Yeah.
that. That
Yeah.
looks like a Slytherin library from Harry Potter or something. Look at that. I don't
Yeah.
recall ever being in a library that looks like this. Have you been in a library that
I
looks like
have
that?
I have not, and all I can imagine that it smells wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, I also really love the fact that, this really doesn't have anything to do with the photograph, but it's the fact that we have all this very organic wood everywhere that's holding the books. And I like that a lot. I just don't think that like books should live in concrete.
Mm,
I love the
yeah.
fact that it's in wood and wooden shelves. Um, so I really enjoy that a lot. As far as the shot goes, I really enjoy, the symmetry and, even the direction of lighting, because I really get this sense that there's a row of windows to my left, which gives me a sense of space and place. I love that a lot. Really, my only suggestion here would be is to pull out the blue tones that we have in the highlights, because I feel like this is a space that's probably nice and warm. It's warmly lit, but the light coming in, the open shade light that we have from the windows on the left is causing some sort of a blue tinged reflections on the right. And so what I would do is I would pick the highlights and I would pull some of the blue out and maybe add a little more warmth in there. Don't just desaturate them. I
Mhm.
think that would give it a little bit more of a cozy feel.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, and it does have that. That's the word, right? Cozy. That's the feeling I get. I can almost smell the wood and the books in here. When I look at this photo, I'm like, I wonder what kind of person you would be if you had read all of these books. Like, if you
Too
had
smart
read
for
them,
society.
right? But still, if you had, if or if most of society, regardless of geography, had consumed even an eighth of these books in here, what kind of world would we be in?
I don't know. I mean, I think the wonderful thing about, that concept is perspective that you would have.
Mm-hmm.
You would have a very unique perspective on the world. So that would be very cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with what you said as far as criticizing this photo. Yeah, yeah, the keeping it
Critiquing.
warm, yeah,
We
critiquing,
didn't
criticizing,
criticize.
criticize does have a negative connotation, but yeah, we are criticizing, right?
I know,
Uh,
I know.
but yeah, making it feel a little bit warmer. This trough down the middle, which is this archway, it feels like a trough, right? It's leading me.
Right.
It's the obvious largest compositional element. The second compositional element I feel like is the leading lines, which is these converging lines coming through here. And then the third compositional element I feel like are the books in here. So because
Right.
this thing is the largest, and then we have the leading lines is taking me to nothing down here, but then the books in here. And I don't mind that. I actually like it. I feel like it stands on its own. I was going to ask you though, on a shot like this, do you think it is the composition better with the with the distortion of the converging lines, or would it have been better to kind of distort it back to rectilinear? In other words, so that these columns are vertical. Would it have made the shot stronger to architecturally to make to distort the shot so that the columns are all vertical? Would that have been stronger? Or is it better to have them sort of leaning in and converging?
I think it's better that we have them leaning and converging, and because it gives us a sense of space and distance. One thing that I would really not only struggle with, but I would spend time and play with is where do I want the converging lines to end up? Do I want them to end bottom center, bottom top, upper right, lower right? There are so many ways that you can use those leading lines to tell a story with depth and size and mass. And I think that this image really just doesn't do the justice of the space. So using the leading lines and the converging lines and stuff like that, you can really really build an image that's huge. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And by the way, so I looked it up. This today they have over 6 million printed volumes that span over 400 years of academic development.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Wow.
I don't.
Jeez.
And yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And the irony of this place is only probably 1/100th of those books would be allowed in Florida in the U.S.
Oh, you don't need to go there. Yeah, don't go there.
These are all illegal books. These have to be burned. Just saying. You got
Yeah.
too many ideas in here.
And
uh,
to Eric, because I'm looking at what some of the images that other people have posted of this space, and for those of you, look this up because I think it's a good learning lesson for all of us. Is that it's hard to decide what to include and more importantly what not to include in an image. And I think that knowing what is below the bottom of this frame in the library, I think Eric did a fantastic job deciding what not to include,
yeah.
to kind of tell this really wonderful, simple story. So I'll let you look it up so you can see what the rest of the library looked like. But I think that he did a great job in that composition. So
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and not one bit of there's no hint of any kind of technology in this shot. Not even electricity. That is just awesome.
are you sure?
Look around. Do you see anything that could carry power or show light
Yeah.
or anything? I mean, we could make the assumption that this entire place is daylit. Like there's just a bank of windows on the left side that's lighting the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I see a couple things, but
Where? Where? I'm looking.
where on the very left side, second column at the top of the O,
At the
it
top.
looks like there's a light or something wired right there. But I can't
Oh,
tell for sure. And then over on the right, the third column or the second column right above the N, there's something mounted there.
oh, this right
Come on,
here.
man, don't say that stuff. You're gonna make me look for it.
I know exactly how to send Troy on a wild goose chase with
Oh, it's
Photoshop and
not
the
even
Zoom tool.
fair now.
No, it's a cool shot. See, and yeah, obviously, just by the fact that we're spending so much time on the shot, it's very interesting. It
Yeah,
is a very interesting
yeah,
shot. So
yeah,
very cool.
yeah. Very,
Thank
very
you,
well
Eric
done.
Pronsky. Yeah, thank you.
Very well done.
And that was our last shot. Huh. Wow. Very
That
cool.
was, yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? What are your you have a favorite in the bunch? It's hard to pick on this
I
one, huh?
I do have a favorite, and I don't want to pick it because of Craig, but my favorite is Paulo's.
Okay, let me find that one. Where is
And
it?
Craig
Where is
knows
it?
why.
Oh yeah.
I'm giving Craig crap. Um,
All right, and why? Why did you pick this one as your favorite? I
well,
agree with you, by the way, but
I love the story here. You know, I think that the library is beautiful architecturally. I think if we were looking at an architectural image, I would go with Eric's hands down, right? But from the sense of a book, I think a book needs a person to really make it meaningful and powerful. So not only do we have the book and the person, but we have them in a space that sort of speaks to anybody who I think who would enjoy books, right? Like it's a peaceful corner. There's good light. Um, so I think that all around this really leans into the whole book theme for me.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I will agree with you. Very nice. Thank you, Paulo, for sharing that shot. And yeah, and congratulations. I picked that one as well. I mean, there's a bunch of shots in there that are amazing. It sounds contrived to say, yeah, everybody's a winner, whatever. But there are really good shots. There are a lot of really good shots that speak to me in
Yep.
different ways in there. But in terms of the subject of this particular critique and and like you said, the composition of this photo and all the things, the
Right.
coloring and all that, it's just it nails it. It hits it right on the head. So
And I
very
think that
good.
it's a good lesson for us all to learn too is like, you know, you can have a whole bunch of images that we all enjoy, but for some reason, and sometimes it's intangible, why is this one better? Why does this one speak to me? Why does everybody like that image and it's not even technically that great? Like there's always this other element to images, you know, that speak to us. So
Yep. Yep. All right. So with that, we need a topic for next week. I think we need to collaborate offline on what that one should be, unless you have one that's ready to go
I have
already.
one. I
Oh,
have one in my head.
whoa! Look at that. He did his homework this
Yeah.
week, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
There's all kinds of good content up here. I just don't have a chance to get it out all the time.
Good content. Is that what they're calling it these days?
I didn't want to say good ideas because, you know,
Exactly.
but
Exactly. All right. So reveal it. What is the first photo critique topic, which will be episode 206? So I'm sorry, 207. That will be 207. So what's the first one for 2023?
it changes like it's that Tesla beanie. Yes.
Exactly.
I love my Tesla beanie. Um Focus stacking.
Ooh, a technique.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, a technique. And so, you know, just to kind of clarify, like the reason I thought of focus stacking is one, almost every one of our cameras now has built-in focus stacking. So that's not even complicated. So you could technically go take a photo of anything and stack two images in there and you're done. But you can use focus stacking for macro. You can use focus stacking for landscape. You could use, you know, architecture. You know, pretty much any of these images that we looked at today, you could have used some form of focus stacking. So, and it's a good reason to kind of learn that that skill, or what am I trying to say? That feature of your camera if you haven't already played with it, because it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the interview that I don't think I've released it yet. I did with Don Komarechka. We were talking about focus stacking a
Mm-hmm.
lot. He uses focus stacking in his snowflake images. That's just one of the tools that he has to use. But he does some really creative things with focus stacking to make images that would have been otherwise impossible, right? Any other,
Right.
well, most other ways, and to the uninitiated viewer, i.e., non-photographers looking at his work, it just makes the work look otherworldly because you don't really see that in nature. So there's a little bit of just,
Right.
like what's going on here, even subconsciously when you see an image like that, because your eye can't do that. Right, your eye can focus on, generally speaking, one thing at a time and then interpolate everything around it, but it's not going to create an image with this incredible depth of field, which you can do by
Right.
combining images. So yeah, I think
Right.
it's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So focus stacking. Phil says, what does he say? He's not gonna participate. I think you're saying, Phil, you're not gonna participate because your camera doesn't support it. I would. Can you speak to that? Like all cameras support focus stacking, right? If they can
Well, you
focus.
can. You can shoot it. You have Photoshop, Phil, so you can stack photos. So there's no reason to not do it. Um, Photoshop isn't the best tool for it, but it does work pretty good. So
Yeah. I mean, in the end, I mean, you could do it in the camera. Like Panasonic's do it. I'm not sure if my Nikon does it, to be honest with you.
it does.
But
It does it
it
very well.
does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's like Phil, you do a lot of landscape photography. So it's just changing the plane of focus. And if you don't have hardware that will do the stack for you in software, and it's just mainly foreground, midground, background, and bring them together in Photoshop and mask them together to reveal
Yeah.
the parts that you need to be in focus and what's not in focus. It's just giving you more control over the focus area. If with Panasonic's, the Panasonic cameras will do automatic focus stacking where they'll literally, you can see them sort of scanning through the scene. You can see the plane
Yep.
of focus moving all the way through the scene as it records images, and then it takes all those, compresses them down into one super focused image and pumps that out. Then you can do whatever the heck you want to do with it.
Yep.
And I even
It's an
think it delivers a
amazing.
raw file from that. So it's crazy.
Yeah, focus stacking or stacking images in general is an amazing technique to learn how to do. To speak to Phil's technique, for example, Phil could go out and you could shoot a whole scene, like 10 or 15 images or however many you want to do, and then you bring them back and you layer them together, and then you can choose which soft part of the rock you want to keep versus what sharp part of the rock you want to keep where the water is splashed, right? You stack those together. You could shoot, when you're shooting with a really, really long lens and you're compressing an image, it's hard to maybe get that back area of the image in focus. Well, you focus stack it, right? And then you bring it in, and you can just do it manually too. So it's an amazing technique, and I think that not enough people know how to use it well. So you can really blow some people away with some cool stuff. So
You know, it would be cool. Not to put you on the spot, Troy Miller, but what would be cool if you were to record a short little demo and throw that in the community of maybe it's one of your pieces of pottery shot with a shallow depth of field, but then showing the focus all the way through, and how you take that into Photoshop and put them together, or do them in camera, or both, whatever. That'd be awesome. I mean, if you know how to
yeah.
do that. I know it's tricky. So I mean,
Why don't
you
we do
know.
it with some of your images, Frederick? We'll do it together.
Oh God, no! I would do it. How about this gauntlet? I will do a tutorial, and you do a tutorial as well. So how about that? Because I need to learn
No,
how to do it on the Nikon.
because then nobody's going to watch your tutorial after
I
mine.
know.
And
I
why would we
know.
do that?
I know. Well, that's my safety blanket, knowing
We'll
that
do
I
it
can record
together.
it and no one will watch it. Yeah, we can do it together.
We'll
Yeah,
do it
let's do it together.
together. Yeah, it'll
Okay.
be fun.
All right.
We'll talk a little bit about focus stacking and photography while we're doing it.
All right. Yeah, and you can. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do it together. You can show me how to do it in camera on the Nikon, but then let's also do a manual version too
Yeah,
for folks that don't have that superpower.
cool.
Folks that aren't privileged enough to have the
Done.
Nikon. So cool. All right, man. Happy holidays. We won't speak again, at least I guess we will on the mixer. It's coming up. But still, happy holidays. You got all your shopping done?
No,
No.
yeah, I think so.
That means no.
Um,
No.
I still got a couple more days on Amazon, so I'm good.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, today's my day. I got to get it done. Yeah, all the important gifts are purchased. Let's say that. So there will be no unhappy children running around. But adults are always whatever last minute. My worst day, and I'll leave us with this. My worst Christmas shopping season was I literally procrastinated till Christmas Eve. It was that. You ever done that? Christmas Eve. So I found myself in Walgreens on Christmas Eve looking at bare shelves. So never again. Never again.
At that
So,
at that point, you just own up and be like, "Look, I suck.
yeah.
I'll make it up to you." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You just yeah.
Or gift cards. Yeah. One of those.
All
Yep.
right.
Yeah. No. I'm better now. I've learned from my mistakes.
I'm better
I'm a
now.
reformed Christmas gift buyer. So Let me get it done either today or tomorrow. I'm done because I hate that stress. The stress of moving up to Christmas and not having done your homework. It sucks. So
Yeah.
we'll get it
Yeah.
done. All right,
All
folks.
right.
Thank you. Troy, you and I, let's try to knock out that tutorial like tomorrow or so. Throw it in there so folks can
Yeah.
play with it over the holidays. And
Yeah.
we'll see you for the next critique, which will be focus stacking, critique number 207. And that will
Yes.
be in 2023 on the 2nd of January, 2023.
Yep.
Cool.
You got it. Moving it in my calendar right now. Done
There you
and
go.
done.
Sweet. All right, everybody. If I don't see you, have a happy holiday and a happy new year, and we will see you soon. And all you
That's
TWiP
right.
members, we'll see you Friday in the mixer, where we'll have some eggnog or something. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, cool.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. All right.
See you later.
Cheers, guys.